like someone tossing a fragile glass bottle into an unpredictable tide. Lily stood barefoot on the mossy stones, her tiny fingers clutching the hem of her nightgown. The early morning light slanted through the oaks, scattering gold on her tangled hair. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, as if the world had been holding its breath, she whispered. "Buyao Zhou, don't go." Maya froze. It was the first thing the child had said to her in 2 weeks, and in flawless Mandarin. Before she could answer, a sharp voice sliced through the quiet. "No one speaks that language in my house," Richard Alden said, striding across the lawn. His tailored slacks brushed against the damp hedges as he moved, his jaw tight enough to crack. "Richard," Maya began, but the rest of her sentence drowned under the thud of his shoes on the stone path. He reached for Lily. In that split second, Lily stepped back. Her heel found the slick rim of the pond. Richard lunged, catching her arm, but his momentum tipped him forward. His shoulder clipped Maya's. And she lost her footing, half her body plunging into the cold water with a gasp. The koi scattered in a swirl of orange and white. Lily cried out, clutching her father's sleeve. Richard set her down on the grass and turned to Maya, his expression hard, but not unfeeling. "You should go dry off. And maybe, take the day," he said. Though the words felt less like an offer and more like a verdict. Maya pushed herself up, water streaming from her sweater. She wanted to explain that Lily had just spoken. That they were on the verge of something, but the wall in his eyes told her this wasn't the moment. She left without another word. By the time Maya reached her small apartment on the east side of Charleston, the damp in her clothes had seeped into her bones. She set her bag down and stared at the framed photograph on her kitchen counter, her mother's hands cradling hers over a piano keyboard. A reminder that some bridges are built note by note. Her phone stayed silent all afternoon. The call came the next morning, barely after sunrise. Richard's voice was quieter this time, a shade heavier. "She won't eat," he said. "She hasn't spoken since you left." Maya closed her eyes. "You told me to go." "I know." A pause. "I was wrong." When she returned to the Alden estate, the air felt different. The gardener's shears clicked somewhere in the distance, and the koi pond was still, reflecting a cloudless sky. Richard stood on the terrace, hands in his pockets. "I need you to come back," he said simply. "Under conditions," Maya replied. His brows lifted. "Conditions?" 1. Lily gets a dedicated learning space. 2. I decide the methods without interference. 3. We honor her mother's heritage. No more bans on the language she spoke at home. Richard hesitated. "Maya. Those are the terms," she said. "Not negotiable." He glanced toward the upstairs window where Lily's face appeared, small and pale behind the glass. His shoulders sank. Agreed. Lily's reunion was wordless at first. She ran to Maya. Pressing her face into her sweater, the way a child might anchor herself against a storm. Then, just loud enough for only Maya to hear, she whispered again, "Buyao Zhu. I'm not going anywhere." Maya promised. From the doorway, Grace, the Aldens' longtime housekeeper, watched them. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes lingered longer than usual. That afternoon, Richard escorted Maya to a sunlit room off the west wing. It used to be a sewing room, he explained. The wide windows spilled light over bare hardwood floors. Maya could already see it transformed. Low shelves with picture books, a chalkboard with simple Mandarin characters, a rug warm enough for floor games. "I'll have the locks changed," Richard added. "Only you, me." She looked around, wide-eyed, as if stepping into a secret world. "Do you know what this is?" Maya held up a paper lantern, its red surface catching the slanting sun. Lily shook her head. It's a bridge made of light, Maya said. We can make one together. For the first time in weeks, Lily's mouth curved upward. That night, after Lily was asleep, Richard lingered in the doorway of the new classroom. Why do you call it a bridge of light? He asked. Because light finds its way into dark places, Maya said. And because every word she learns is a step across. He nodded slowly, as though storing the words for later. Outside, the koi pond rippled under the moonlight. The house was quiet. But somewhere in its stillness, something had shifted, like the first, faint note of a song waiting to be finished. By the time Maya returned home that evening, a folded clipping from a local paper. The headline was faded, but the words were sharp enough to stir an old ache. There was also a scrap of paper, the handwriting brisk, "We should talk." J. Maya set it down, the koi pond's reflection still shimmering in her mind. Somewhere between the child who'd whispered in another tongue and the man who'd grudgingly agreed to her terms. She knew, this was just the beginning. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the west wing, painting the new classroom in gold. Maya stood by the window, running her fingers over the grain of the wooden desk. It wasn't much yet, just a rug, a low shelf of books, the paper lantern from yesterday, but it felt alive. Like the first sketch of a portrait that would soon hold color. Richard appeared at the doorway, coffee in hand. You work fast, he said. I don't work fast, Maya replied without turning. I work with purpose. He leaned against the frame, watching her arrange a stack of picture cards, each with a Mandarin character on one side and an illustration on the other. You really think she'll speak again? Not just, whisper. Maya finally looked up. Every child has a key, Richard. You just have to find it. And you don't find it by locking the wrong doors. He was silent for a beat, then gave a small nod. You'll have what you need. Lily arrived after breakfast, still in her soft cotton pajamas. She hesitated at the threshold. Like someone unsure if they were welcome in a secret garden. This room is yours, Maya told her. You can laugh here. You can make mistakes here. You can speak, in any language you choose. The girl's eyes drifted to the paper lantern. Maya followed her gaze, lifting it gently. Shall we light it together? They crouched by the low table, placing a small battery candle inside. As the warm glow filled the lantern, Lily's face lit up too, not with words yet, but with something close. The days that followed fell into a rhythm. In the mornings, Maya and Lily practiced calligraphy on large sheets of butcher paper. In the afternoons, they cooked simple dishes, dumplings, rice balls, stir-fried vegetables, recipes Maya remembered from her years teaching abroad. One afternoon, as Lily carefully brushed the character for home onto the page, Maya asked, Do you know what this means? Lily nodded, then spoke so softly Maya almost missed it. It's where Mama used to sing. The words hung in the air like a delicate thread. Maya didn't pull, didn't rush. She simply said, Then we'll make this your second home. But peace, in a house like the Aldens, was never without its shadows. It started with the jade figurine, a small phoenix that had sat in the glass display case in the main hall for decades. One morning, it was gone. Grace was the first to speak of it. Her voice cool and clipped. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding, she told Richard at the breakfast table. But, things have gone missing before when outsiders were here. Maya had been pouring Lily's orange juice when she heard it. She set the pitcher down, steady. If you have something to say it to me. Grace's eyes narrowed. I just did. Richard's gaze moved between them. We'll find it, he said firmly, though his voice held the faint edge of a man balancing trust against history. That evening, Maya returned to the classroom to find an envelope tucked between two of the calligraphy books. Inside was a Polaroid, faded but clear enough to show her standing beside Min Alden, Lily's late mother. In a university courtyard. Both women were smiling, holding the same phoenix figurine. Beneath it, a single line in blocky handwriting: "Some things don't disappear by accident." Maya sat at the small desk, the photo trembling in her hands. Memories stirred, lectures, shared meals, the way Min had spoken about preserving language as if it were a lifeline. But before she could sink too deep, a knock came at the door. It was Lily, clutching a drawing. A koi pond, with 3 bright orange fish and 1 small, almost hidden in the reeds. "This one's you," Lily said in English. Maya smiled, her voice gentle. "Because I'm hiding?" "No," Lily whispered. "Because you're looking for something." The next day, Richard called Maya into his study. "We found the figurine," he said, sliding a small velvet pouch across the desk. It was in a storage box in the east wing. Grace forgot she'd moved it during the cleaning. Maya studied his face. "That's not just forgetfulness. That's a story someone wanted told." He didn't deny it. "I'll handle Grace." But as Maya left the study, she caught sight of Grace at the far end of the hall. Speaking in low tones to a man she didn't recognize, tall, with a sharp, assessing gaze. He turned away before Maya could catch more than the outline of his jaw. That weekend, Maya took Lily to the Charleston waterfront. They strolled past the old pier, feeding gulls, the salty wind tangling Lily's hair. At a small vendor stall, Lily spotted a box of paper cranes. She picked a blue one, holding it up to the sun. "In Mandarin, we call this he," Maya said. "It means crane. In stories, cranes carry our wishes to the sky." "What do you wish for?" Lily asked. Maya smiled. "For bridges that never fall." Lily thought for a moment. "I wish for Mama to hear me." "You will," Maya promised. That night, after Lily was in bed, Maya sat in the classroom with the Polaroid, the envelope from Jay, and the jade phoenix now back in its glass case down the hall. She thought of Min's voice, measured, luminous, telling her once over tea, "Language isn't just communication, Maya. It's inheritance. Protect it, and you protect the soul." In the quiet, Maya whispered to the empty room, "I hear you, Min. I hear you." She didn't know that at that exact moment, in a study 2 floors away, Richard was holding a different letter from Min, a letter with Maya's name written at the top. And he was starting to wonder if their meeting had ever been an accident at all. Morning gathered softly over the west wing, pouring through the tall panes like warm honey. The classroom breathed with newness: low shelves, a braided rug, the little red lantern from yesterday resting on the window latch. Maya stood at the chalkboard, writing a single character in steady strokes. She said aloud, "Home." A footstep in the doorway. Richard, tie undone, coffee untouched in his hand. He looked as if sleep had asked for permission and been refused. "You're early," Maya said, not turning. "That's usually my line." "I found something," he answered, voice thinner than usual. "Or it found me." He held out an envelope whose edges had yellowed into the color of old sea maps. The handwriting on it was elegant and slanted, the script of a woman who thought before she spoke. Maya recognized it at once. "Min," she breathed. He nodded. "I didn't read it for years. I don't know why. Fear, probably. Today it felt heavier than the drawer." Maya opened the letter carefully. As if paper could bruise. She read in silence, and the silence grew a kind of gravity around them. "Richard," it said, "if my voice is gone from the rooms you love, listen for it in another. Trust Maya Williams. She will hold the part of Lily that the world will not understand. Let her open the windows I've left closed." Maya lowered the page. "She asked you to trust me." She did. He said. And I did everything except that. You were grieving, Maya answered, gentler than the light. Grief makes noise where listening should be. Richard rubbed his thumb along the envelope's edge. I thought I was protecting Lily. Maybe I was protecting the part of me that didn't know how to remember without breaking. Then let's learn a quieter way, Maya said. Open the window. See what the air does. He looked at the character on the board. Jia. Home. Not a place, Maya replied. A practice. Before either could say more, small footsteps pattered down the hall. Lily peeked in, hair a halo of morning. She scanned the room the way birds test wind. This is your room, Maya told her. Kneeling. Where words are friends, not tests. Lily's gaze rose to the lantern. Can we light it again? She asked, in English this time. We can, Maya said, if we promise to keep it lit here. She tapped her chest. Lily tapped hers in the same spot, solemn as an oath. That afternoon. After lessons, after Lily tried the character for song and giggled when the ink tickled her wrist, Maya drove back to her apartment for fresh supplies. The hall smelled of rain and oranges from the florist downstairs. Her keys turned in the lock with a familiar protest. She stepped in and stilled. On her kitchen table lay a manila envelope. No stamp. A message scrawled in the same square hand as the first note, she left you more than memories. Look deeper. J. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Maya Williams. You don't know me, a man said. The vowels carrying a faint East Coast rasp, but I knew Min. We should talk before others decide the story for you. Sunday. Old Wharf Cafe. Noon. Who is this? Maya asked. A beat. Jerome. You can call me Jay. The line went quiet before she could say yes or no. She stared at the Polaroid until the colors seemed to tilt toward her. She left you more than memories. Maya looked up at the ceiling as if a voice might be hiding there. All right, she said to the empty room. I'll look. Sunday brought rain that washed the streets until the cobblestones looked newly minted. The Old Wharf Cafe had fogged windows and the kind of light that forgave everything. A man in a worn leather jacket sat facing the harbor, tapping an unlit sugar packet against the table. Jerome? Maya asked. He stood, offering a hand that had done work. Jerome Carter. I coordinated literacy workshops with Min back before. He let the sentence walk itself to the edge. Back before the house got quiet, Maya finished. His mouth lifted, not quite a smile. She talked about you like an answer to a question most people were too tired to ask. What question? How do you keep a language from becoming a museum exhibit, Jerome said. And turn it into a kitchen table again. Maya folded her arms. Why the notes? Why the secrecy? Because some people prefer the museum, he said. Min didn't. She was building a community grant, small spaces, big heart, outside the usual channels. She drafted you as the steward. Then she got sick, and things went into drawers that never opened. The Phoenix. She planned to tuck the grant records where only someone who loved yous more than show would find them. Where? Jerome shrugged. Min liked to hide keys inside the things they were meant to open. The question is, what does she want you to open? Rain laced the window, the harbor a page of gray script. Maya thought of the new classroom. The old sewing table desk. The way the bottom drawer stuck as if it were guarding more than pencils. If you find it, Jerome added, standing to leave, don't make it a statue. Make it a door. Why help me? Maya asked. Because the world is loud, he said, pulling his jacket collar up, and you're one of the few people I've seen who knows how to listen. Back at the estate. The house smelled of cinnamon and floor wax. Lily waited in the classroom, painting a pond that wore the sky like a borrowed dress. She'd drawn 3 bright koi and 1 small one almost hidden in reeds. "Who's this?" Maya asked, pointing to the smallest fish. "You," Lily said. Then, more quietly, "You're little because you're looking for something." Maya laughed softly. "Maybe I am." Lily dipped her brush and, with careful strokes, painted 2 figures at the water's edge, one taller. Hair in a long sweep, one shorter, a bun at the nape. "That one's Mama," Lily explained. "She's teaching you the song she taught me." Maya's throat tightened. "Then I should sing it right," she said. "Every note." "Every word," Lily corrected, with the gravity only a child can muster. "Every word," Maya echoed. That evening, the hallway outside the classroom held its own weather. Lamp glow puddled on polished floors, the air cool as a chapel. The jade phoenix had been returned to its case, wings stilled mid-lift. Maya's reflection hovered over the glass, a double exposure, past and present sharing the same frame. "Be careful," a voice said behind her. Grace stood with a folded laundry cloth in her hands. A sentinel whose armor was routine. "Of what?" Maya asked. "Of knocking on doors that were shut for a reason." Maya nodded toward the phoenix. "Some doors don't open with knocking," she said. "Some open when you put the right thing in the right place." Grace studied her for a long heartbeat. "Just make sure you're not lighting fires you don't plan to tend." "I don't light anything I won't stay to warm," Maya said, and walked into the classroom. She went to the desk. The bottom drawer stuck midway, as it always did. Like a breath held between confession and relief. Maya knelt, ran her fingers along the inside lip, and felt it, the faint seam of a false panel. "Of course," she whispered. "Hide the key in the door." The panel slid free with a tired sigh. Beneath it lay an envelope wrapped in tissue the color of tea. She unfolded it, and time thinned. It was a grant proposal. Typed, annotated. Corners softened by hope. At the top, the Jade Phoenix Initiative, Community Heritage Fellowship. On the final page, Min's handwriting unfurled like a ribbon, for Maya Williams. "Who will finish what I cannot?" Maya pressed the paper to her heart. The room seemed to listen with her. "I will," she said into the quiet, but she wasn't speaking only to the walls. "I'll finish it. Min. I'll turn it into a door." Outside, the koi pond held the moon like a promise. Inside, a lantern on the sill caught a salt-tinged breeze and glowed steady as a kept vow. The courtyard was a theater that morning, sunlight breaking through the wisteria, linen-draped tables set with bone china, the murmur of Charleston's old money. The brunch was supposed to be about beginnings, the fellowship's first donor event, the unveiling of a heritage piece from Min's side of the family. Maya moved between the tables, guiding Lily's small hand as she introduced her to guests. The girl's dress was pale yellow, the color of the koi pond on a bright day. Richard was by the display case near the east wall, speaking with Alan Gray, tailored suit, smile like polished marble. "We want them to see it, Richard," Alan was saying, gesturing toward the jade phoenix inside the case. "Not hidden away. It's a symbol." "It's more than a symbol," Richard replied. "It's Min's." Maya noticed Tess, Alan's new assistant, gliding between the catering staff. She moved with the efficiency of someone used to making herself invisible. The moment came without fanfare. A guest's voice rose, "Oh, there's a crack." Heads turned. Inside the case, the jade phoenix bore a hairline fracture along its wing. Gasps spread. Then the real blow landed. Grayson approached Maya with a grim expression, holding a linen-lined basket. "We found this in the laundry room," he said. Inside, wrapped in a towel, was a small shard of jade. Guests whispered. Some looked at Maya, others at Richard. Alan's brows knit just enough to register concern without breaking his social mask. Tess hovered nearby, eyes wide, the picture of helpful alarm. Richard took the fragment from Grayson. His jaw tightening. Where exactly? In a basket with the classroom linens, Grayson answered. Under a folded smock. Maya swallowed. That's not possible. I've never. Alan cut in smoothly. Sometimes accidents happen in the bustle of running a household. That's why these pieces are usually kept elsewhere. That's not what happened, Maya said, her voice steady but low. And if it had, I wouldn't be finding out in front of 30 people. Richard's eyes found hers, holding. He turned to Grayson. Pull the camera logs for every shared hallway and the laundry room. I want a time stamp. Grayson hesitated. There's a gap. 40 minutes. Power fluctuation in the West Wing system. When? Richard asked. Grayson glanced toward the east wall. Same window. Tess was taking inventory photos for the event. Tessa's smile faltered. Are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Richard said. Yet. The brunch staggered on. Waiters refilled glasses with forced grace, laughter trying to find its footing. Maya stayed at Lily's side, her hand a steady anchor. She noticed a faint white dust on the shard's edge. No one would find that in a laundry basket unless it had been planted there. Later, as guests drifted toward the courtyard's photo backdrop, Alan found Richard near the koi pond. The air between them was cooler than the shade. You know the fellowship can't afford this kind of chatter, Alan said. Richard didn't look at him. The fellowship can't afford to be run on fear. Either. I'm talking about optics, Alan pressed. This woman lives under your roof. Public perception is fragile. Richard's gaze sharpened. The housekeeper's face was unreadable, but her eyes lingered on the jade display being wheeled away. Strange day, Grace said. Strange, Maya agreed. Grace's gaze flicked toward the laundry room. Some battles, Min had once told her, aren't won by striking harder. They're won by building something no one can tear down. And Maya intended to build. The house had the hush of a chapel that afternoon, the kind of quiet that asks you to lower your voice even if you're alone. In the library. Light pooled over the walnut table where a small collection of Min's journals lay like sleeping birds. Richard stood by the window, hands in his pockets, when Grayson announced a visitor. A mess. Lillian Chang, he said, and stepped aside. Lillian entered with a measured grace, silver hair pinned neatly, a raincoat folded over one arm, a canvas satchel across her shoulder. Her smile was the kind people offer at funerals and reunions, the same tenderness, different weather. Maya, she said first, crossing to embrace her. You look like the answer to a promise. Maya squeezed her hand. I've been trying to keep one. Richard offered tea. Lillian waved it off gently and opened her satchel. I brought something you should hear. Both of you. She placed a small digital recorder on the table, the plastic worn smooth. When she pressed play, a wave of ambient chatter rose, clinking cups, subdued applause, then a voice, warm and clear. Threaded through. Min's voice. Language is not a display case. It is breath. It is bread. If we do not pass it across the table, it starves. Maya's fingers tightened on the edge of the table. The recording shifted, Lillian's voice from years ago, and if you had to name one person to carry this forward? Min laughed softly. I already have. A young professor with a wide mind and a wider heart. Maya Harris. She paused, the smile audible. She knows how to turn a room into a home. Silence fell so suddenly the air seemed to ring. Richard's eyes slid to Maya. She stared at the recorder as if it might lift and become the woman herself. She said my name, Maya whispered. She said your name often, Lillian replied. Sometimes the right names are a map. Richard reached for the recorder and stopped short, as if it might be hot. I told a child her mother's language wasn't allowed in her own house, he said. Voice low. Every step I took away from that truth. I thought I was protecting her. Protection without listening is a wall, Lillian said gently. Min built windows. Lillian took out a second item. A thin folder bound with twine. Inside, on lined paper, was a lullaby notated in Min's hand, Chinese characters, and beneath them, a line of phonetic notes in a tidy system of symbols. Maya traced the marks with her eyes and then with a fingertip. These are her cues, she murmured. She marked the rise and fall for a child's ear. This is how I teach Lily to land the tones. Lillian nodded. You found her trail without knowing. Richard swallowed. So the way Lily is learning is the way her mother planned, Lillian finished. The bridge is already there, Richard. You've been standing on it. For a long moment no one spoke. The library clock ticked like a soft metronome for grief turning into resolve. Maya looked up. Lillian. The fellowship, Min's draft called it the Jade Phoenix Initiative. We found an early proposal in the classroom desk. If we do this, I want it, clean. Built to last. Not a name on a plaque. Lillian's eyes warmed. Then build it like Min would, independent, transparent, beautiful in the way a well-laid table is beautiful. Richard exhaled. We'll separate it from the estate's core operations. Create a standalone nonprofit with its own board. Evelyn Carter on pedagogy. Lillian, if you'll serve as curator of legacy. A school district representative. A community leader. I'll fund the seed, but the governance stays independent. Full audit. Public reports. Maya met his gaze, level. No strings. Only one. Richard said. Impact. Not photo opportunities, results. And students' privacy respected every step of the way, Maya added. We show outcomes, not faces. Done, Richard said. Lillian smiled into the quiet. Do you hear her, both of you? This is the sound Min wanted, people who disagree with gentleness and then agree with strength. They worked for an hour in a rhythm that felt like assembling something they'd all seen before in a dream. Lillian sketched the fellowship tiers, teacher stipends, microgrants for community language corners, a mentorship circle. Maya outlined an assessment rubric that measured progress without shaming, attendance, engagement. The moment a child volunteers a word at the dinner table. Richard listed contacts, legal steps, a timeline that didn't crush human timing. When they paused, Lily appeared in the doorway holding a paper lantern she had decorated with plum blossoms. It looks like the moon, she announced. It looks like hope, Lillian answered, kneeling. And hope looks good on you. Lily turned to Maya. Can we sing Mama's song for her? She nodded toward Lillian, eyes expectant. Maya exchanged a glance with Richard. He gave a tiny nod. They sang softly, Maya carrying the first line, Lily echoing, the phonetic cues under Min's handwriting hovering in Maya's mind like a guide. As the last note thinned into the air, Lillian pressed a hand to her heart. Your mother would say, good breath holds good love, Lillian whispered. You're holding both. After Lillian left, the house felt lighter by a weight. As if a window had been opened and the sea breeze finally allowed in. Richard stood by the mantel, looking up at Min's portrait. I don't want another day to pass where my decisions contradict her voice, he said. Then don't let it, Maya replied. Turn the apology into architecture. He smiled, a brief thing. Grace hummed absent-mindedly while stacking dishes, and the melody carried a familiarity that Maya couldn't quite place, until she realized it was the lullaby, hummed without words. The way a house hums when it remembers. Grayson appeared with a slim binder. "For your review," he said to Richard. "Draft structure for the non-profit, council recommendations, a list of audit firms. I've also updated access logs for the public rooms. We'll keep all footage requests scoped to shared spaces." "Thank you," Richard said. "One more thing. Tomorrow, we announce a listening session. Not a launch party. A listening session, educators, parents, neighbors. We start as students, not saviors." Grayson smiled. "That will land well." Maya watched the koi circle once in the dusk now gathering beyond the glass. "Bridges first, banners later," she said. "We'll let the work do the talking." Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. A new email. The subject line was blank, the sender masked behind a disposable address. She tapped it open. A single image loaded, a tight shot of Maya kneeling to embrace Lily. The child's face half hidden in Maya's shoulder. Under it, a caption in bold, "Who is she really?" Beneath that, a link to a gossip site known for its appetite for scandal and its allergy to context. Maya felt the prickle of cold race up her spine. Another buzz. Richard looked up at the same moment, his screen lit with a notification. He read, jaw tensing. "Anonymous tip," he said, voice flat. "Going live at 8 in the morning." Maya closed her eyes, breathed once, then again. When she opened them, her voice was steady. "Then we tell the truth before someone sells a story," she said. "We don't shout. We stand where everyone can see us and we listen first. Then we speak." Richard nodded. "We keep it human. We keep it clean." Outside. The lantern Lily had left on the sill caught a breeze and glowed, small, sure, unafraid. The kind of light that doesn't compete with darkness, it simply refuses to leave. The rotunda at the Charleston Institute of Arts and Language had the clean hush of a concert hall before the first note. Glass panels framed the harbor like a living mural. Microphones stood in a row like patient birds. On the back wall, a single banner hung without pomp, "Listening Session, the Min Alden Fellowship." Maya stood just off stage. Palms open against the cool of the lectern. Beside her, Richard adjusted the cuff of his jacket the way nervous men keep their hands busy. Lillian checked a small stack of note cards she likely didn't need. Dr. Evelyn Carter, gray streak in her bun like a bolt of purpose, met Maya's eyes and said, "Remember, we're here to listen. Then to answer." Grayson leaned in. "Housekeeping, press is heavy. We'll keep questions to policy and program. No minors on screen. We've cleared the hallway cameras language for the record. Public areas only." Maya nodded. Transparency or nothing. They stepped into the light. Richard took the first breath. "Good afternoon. We said we would start as students, not saviors. So, this is a listening session." He gestured to the front row, teachers, parents, a translator from the city library, a retired principal. "We'll talk about a fellowship my late wife envisioned, independent governance, public audit, community-centered classrooms. And we'll answer hard questions. That's the promise." He turned the mic toward Maya. "This is the woman Min trusted with that promise." Maya placed both hands on the lectern as if steadying a bridge. "My name is Maya Harris. I taught linguistics until I didn't. I left after a professional dispute that cost me my title but not my work. Since then I've taught in living rooms, kitchens, church basements. And now a small classroom at the Alden house where one child has begun to find her mother's voice again." She let the room breathe. "A legacy isn't a monument. It's a living bridge. Cameras clicked. A polite wave on a rocky shore. A reporter in a navy blazer raised a hand. Conflict of interest. How do you ensure a fund seated by the Alden estate isn't controlled by it? Richard answered without reaching for the mic, we don't control it. It's a stand-alone nonprofit with a board that can outvote me on my best day. We're publishing bylaws, meeting minutes, and audited statements. If it can't bear sunlight, it doesn't belong here. Another hand. Ms. Harris, your past resignation, why should parents trust you? Maya didn't flinch. Because I don't hide the truth. I spoke up when silence was easier. I lost a role, I kept a vocation. Now I build rooms where children don't have to choose between the language of their home and the language of their street. She glanced at Dr. Evelyn. And because good work doesn't die when a title does. Evelyn stepped forward. For the record, I chaired a committee that reviewed Ms. Harris's syllabi, outcomes, and peer feedback. Her students' retention and completion rates were in the top decile. You want receipts? We brought them. She tapped the binder Grayson carried. Maya clicked the screen behind her. A clean slide appeared, what we measure, without shaming. 3 numbers, she said. 1. Attendance up 18% in pilot classes where mother tongue is welcomed, not hidden. 2. Reading confidence plus 24% via a simple, anonymous self-rating children complete in their home language. 3. Home use. Parents report a 31% increase in kids initiating conversation with elders. We measure growth, not perfection. We show progress, not faces. Another slide, how we stay honest, 3 circles labeled independent audit, public reports, community review. Transparency is not a slide, Maya said. It's a habit. She set the clicker down. And because teaching is not a spreadsheet, we'll demonstrate how a classroom can feel. She nodded toward the side door. 2 local teachers, Ms. Alvarez from a dual-language elementary and Mr. Thompson from a community center, walked on stage. No children. No performative display. Think of this as choreography for listening, Maya said. Ms. Alvarez, you greet Mr. Thompson in Spanish. He replies in English. The goal is not conversion, it's crossing. They played it out. Greeting, miscue, humor, repair. Maya narrated the moves, mirroring body language, offering a choice of languages, validating the attempt, recasting without correcting. The room tilted forward. People smiled the way bodies do when tension lifts a shoulder. A woman in the second row raised her hand, eyes damp. What if my child refuses to speak at all? Then we honor silence. Maya said softly. Silence isn't absence, it's a room with the lights off. We sit with them until they find the switch. From the rear microphones, a voice cut in. And who declared you the electrician? It wasn't sneering, it was tired. The kind of fatigue that comes from too many promises. Maya leaned closer to the mic, no one. I declared myself a neighbor. The fellowship exists to train neighbors, teachers who know that language is not a performance, it's a table. We're just making sure there are enough chairs. Reporters exchanged glances. Pens scratched. The questions came faster now, sharper but less barbed. Will the Alden name overshadow community voices? No, Richard said. The Alden name will sign checks and leave the room when it's time for teachers to talk. Will applications be public? Lillian answered. Applicants' identities will be protected. Final awards and criteria will be posted. We safeguard people, we surface process. And the rumor, someone asked carefully, that Ms. Harris is effectively, the reporter searched for a gentle word, living as family? Richard's jaw worked. Maya lifted a hand. Here's what's true, I work where a child lives. I teach in a room where a lamp is always on. Gossip sells questions. Our work answers them. She let the air settle. Next. A figure rose in the back. Leather jacket, rain dark. He didn't move toward the mic, he simply held up a sealed envelope and said in a voice that carried, "You forgot this 8 years ago." Maya knew the shoulders before her mind caught the name. Jerome? He came forward. Up close, the familiarity was a tug on sternum strings, same eyes as hers, same stubborn line to the mouth. He glanced at the press, then at Maya. "We can call me Jerome Carter out there. In here, my name is Jerome Harris." He held out the envelope. "A recommendation letter from your department chair, written the week things went sideways. It never reached you. I kept it because I was angry. Today I'm more useful than that." The room shifted, the small collective sound a crowd makes when a story acquires a heartbeat. Maya took the envelope, hands steady. She didn't open it. "Some things are truer unopened," she said, and tucked it into the binder. She looked at Jerome. "Thank you for showing up as family." He nodded. "We all deserve to be seen in the right name." A reporter cleared his throat. "So, your past colleagues support you?" Evelyn leaned to the mic. "Some did then, more do now. That's how light works, slow in the morning, undeniable by noon." Grayson signaled from the wing, 2 minutes. Maya closed with no slides. "We will make mistakes. We'll publish them, fix them. And keep going. If you find a better way, show us. We'll learn it. If you have a story, bring it. We'll hold it. This fellowship is not a stage. It's a table. Pull up a chair." Applause rose, not the roar of spectacle, but the standing sound of relief. People exhaled in the language they had come with. Richard stepped to her side. "You okay?" he asked under the noise. Maya smiled, the kind that happens to a face from the inside out. "I am exactly where the work is." They shook hands with teachers, hugged parents who asked for nothing but time. Cameras caught the edges and then the crowd began to thin. Outside, in the shadow of the parking structure, Tess had her phone pressed to her ear, voice low enough to be mistaken for wind. "The room loved her," she said. A pause. "Yes." She neutralized it. "Yes," he backed her. Her eyes tracked the doors as Maya and Richard stepped into the winter sun. "Then we moved to Plan B." She ended the call and slipped into the light as if she had always belonged to it. The harbor shone, the banner in the rotunda rustled once and stilled. Like a promise learning how to hold its shape. The courtyard of the Alden house glowed like an ember cradled in the palm of night. Paper lanterns, painted by small hands in uneven brushstrokes, swayed gently in the winter breeze. Names, half in Mandarin, half in English, floated on the thin rice paper like whispers that had learned to stand in the open. Maya moved between tables with the quiet ease of someone who understood that her role was part conductor, part witness. The scent of ginger tea drifted from a serving table, from the corner. A soft plucking of a guzheng filled the air. Children darted under strings of lights, some clutching calligraphy brushes, others small slips of paper folded into boats. Grace stood near the flower beds, her hands buried deep in the pockets of her cardigan. She watched a girl in a red coat carefully write her name in 2 languages. Her tongue peeking from the corner of her mouth in concentration. When the girl looked up and smiled, Grace's breath caught, not because of the child, but because the moment was too gentle to be ignored. Maya approached, holding a small potted chrysanthemum. "For the classroom," she said simply. Grace hesitated, then took it. Fingers brushing the rim of the pot. "For Lily," she murmured. "So she can remember her mother by scent, not by tears." Maya smiled, a slow warmth. Memories built on beauty last longer than the ones built on grief. Across the courtyard, Richard helped Lily adjust the lantern she carried. The little girl's hair had grown past her shoulders, and she wore a red scarf knitted by Grace. Lily glanced at Maya and gave a small nod, permission, trust, both unspoken but loud enough to reach across the distance. Richard walked over, hands in his coat pockets. "She's been practicing something with you," he said quietly. Maya tilted her head. "She wants to share it tonight." When the hum of conversation faded, Maya guided Lily to the small platform in the center of the courtyard. "This is a song her mother once sang," she told the crowd. "We've built it into 2 voices, 2 languages, so the bridge is never one way." The first note from Lily was fragile, like a bird testing its wings. Mandarin verses floated into the cold night, then curved into soft English refrains. Maya sang the counter line, their voices weaving in and out, never competing, only completing. From the back, an elderly man wiped his eyes. "My grandson hasn't spoken since we moved," he whispered to the woman beside him. Maybe now, he didn't finish, but the hope in his voice finished for him. When the song ended, the applause was not sharp or hurried. It rose slowly, like the tide, enveloping them. Lily ducked into Maya's coat as if hiding from her own bravery. Later, as the crowd began placing lanterns along the garden path, Grace found herself standing next to Lillian Chong. The older woman was tying a ribbon to a lantern. "You were skeptical," Lillian said without looking up. Grace exhaled. "I thought I was protecting this house. Maybe I was just protecting myself from what it would change." She glanced toward Maya, who was kneeling to help a boy knot his lantern string. "I still don't trust easily, but I can trust the work." Lillian tied the knot, let the lantern float up a little. "Then guard the work, not the walls." Grayson came by with a clipboard, eyes alight. 200 fellowship applications since last week, he said to Richard. "Our system's coughing smoke. We'll need a public scoring rubric, more reviewers." "Make it happen," Richard said, his gaze fixed on Lily, who was now guiding a smaller child to place a lantern on the pond's edge. Maya stepped beside him. "It's working," she said quietly. Richard didn't look away from the water. "For tonight, yes. But bridges aren't built in one evening. We keep lighting them, even when no one's watching." Maya nodded. "A bridge is lit from both sides." Grace overheard it as she passed, and for reasons she couldn't name, the words landed like an anchor in still water. As the last lantern was set afloat, the courtyard shimmered, a slow river of light drifting toward the dark edges of the pond. Lily's hand slipped into Maya's, and they stood in silence as the koi swam just beneath the reflection of the paper suns. The night didn't end with speeches. It ended with small, deliberate acts. A father helping his son sound out his name in 2 scripts, Grace adjusting the chrysanthemums on the classroom windowsill, Grayson jotting notes about reviewer training. Richard carrying 2 empty tea trays back inside without being asked. By the time the guests had gone and the lanterns had burned low, the courtyard was quiet again. But the path of light along the water remained, stubborn and soft, as if refusing to admit the night could erase it. Maya lingered by the pond, pulling her scarf tighter. Grace approached, holding 2 mugs of tea. "For warmth," she said. They stood without speaking for a long moment. Then Grace asked, "What if the bridge breaks?" Maya looked at her. "Then we build it again. Stronger. With more hands." From inside, Lily's laughter rang out, a rare, unguarded sound. Grace took a sip of tea and didn't try to hide her smile. Out on the pond, the last lantern tipped, righted itself, and kept drifting forward. The boardroom smelled faintly of polished oak and coffee gone lukewarm. Rain tapped against the tall windows, casting a faint shimmer over the long table where the members of the Fellowship Council had gathered. Name placards stood like small fortresses before each person, Dr. Evelyn Moore, chair. Posture relaxed but eyes sharp, like a man who thought he still had the upper hand. Maya sat opposite him, a folder in front of her but unopened. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was calm. Evelyn raised a brow. "Grace, this wasn't requested." "I know," Grace replied. "But truth doesn't mind witnesses." Richard's gaze flicked to Maya. He tapped a small evidence bag on the table containing a pale dust sample. Conservation chalk, the kind used in gallery preservation. It doesn't match anything from laundry facilities. Lillian leaned forward. And only 3 people had access to the preservation room the week the statue was moved. Maya Harris was not one of them. Maya's hands stayed folded. "I said from the start, I never handled the statue." The legal counsel nodded to Grayson, who wheeled in a small cart with a monitor. "We've reviewed the security logs. There's a blind spot in the main hall camera, lasting approximately 2 minutes. Cross-referencing Grace's log, there's only one person unaccounted for in that window." The footage began to play. Tess, the event assistant, stepping into the frame, a slim bundle in her hands wrapped in cloth. She glanced around, then disappeared into the blind spot. 30 seconds later. That she was asked to check the condition of the statue for an upcoming exhibit. She also admitted to placing the broken piece in the laundry basket. The room went still. Alan gave a tight smile. "So she acted, overzealously." "No," Richard said sharply, his voice cutting the air. "She acted under your direction. You weaponized my wife's memory to undermine a program that's helping children." Alan's face stiffened. "Your wife's memory deserves dignity, not..." "Dignity?" Richard's tone was low but dangerous. "Dignity isn't silence. It's truth." For a moment, no one moved. The rain against the glass seemed to grow louder. Dr. Evelyn finally spoke. "Effective immediately, Alan Gray will have no role in the governance of this fellowship. Tessa's contract with the event planning committee is terminated. All findings will be documented in the council minutes and shared with relevant parties." Lillian's voice softened as she turned to Maya. "I know this wasn't about clearing your name for you, it was about protecting the bridge you've built." Maya nodded. "We can't build anything worth keeping if we let lies decide the blueprint." The meeting adjourned, papers shuffled, chairs scraped back. Alan left without a word. Grace lingered near the doorway. Chrysanthemum petals clinging to her sleeve. "I suppose," she said to Maya, "it's harder to hate someone when they're standing in the light." Maya offered a faint smile. "It's easier to step into it when you're not alone." Outside, the rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet. Richard walked beside Maya down the stone steps, his hand brushing hers. "We didn't win anything today," he said quietly. She glanced at him. "No. But we didn't lose the truth." They reached the bottom step where the koi pond shimmered faintly in the courtyard beyond. Maya paused, her reflection rippling in the water. "I'm not here to fight Alan," she said. "I'm here to keep building." Richard nodded. "Then let's make sure the next stone we lay is one they can't move." As they walked back toward the house, the lights from the windows caught on the damp pavement, turning it into a ribbon of gold leading forward. The storm had passed, but the air still carried the scent of rain, clean, unburdened, and ready for what came next. The late afternoon sun poured into the sitting room like a quiet blessing. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, a stack of bilingual storybooks spread before her. Lily lay on her stomach across the rug, one hand holding her chin, the other tracing the characters on the page. From the doorway, a warm, familiar voice drifted in. "That stroke there," Jerome said. Pointing gently with a finger, "It's like drawing a roof over a person. Means home, right?" Lily looked up and grinned, the kind that showed all her teeth. "Yes. Jia." Jerome grinned back. Jia. Home. He exaggerated the tones, earning a giggle. Maya's eyes softened. You've been practicing. He shrugged. Can't be the only one in the family who can't follow along when she starts running her mouth in Mandarin. He turned a page, careful not to crease it. Besides, I figure if I'm gonna be here, I might as well be here. The words landed heavier than they looked. Maya knew exactly what he meant. They read together for almost an hour, Jerome stumbling, Lily correcting with a small teacher's patience. When they reached the final story, he closed the book and sat back. You know, he said quietly. That envelope I sent, it wasn't meant to stir up trouble. It was meant to remind you there was a whole part of your life you'd shut away. And maybe you couldn't step forward until you looked back. Maya met his eyes. And you thought digging it up would make me stronger? He nodded. Or break you clean, so you could start fresh. Either way. It wasn't fair to leave you carrying it like a shadow. Silence stretched, the kind that doesn't push, just lets you breathe in what's true. From the kitchen doorway, Grace appeared. A small terracotta pot in her hands. The chrysanthemums inside were just starting to bloom, their yellow petals bright against the dimming light. I thought, she said, hesitating a moment, we could plant these around the classroom. So Lily remembers her mother by the scent, not just the ache. Maya rose and took the pot carefully. That's kind, Grace. Grace's voice lowered. Truth is, I wasn't afraid of you. I was afraid of what you brought back, memories that made this house feel like it was missing something. I thought keeping them out would keep us steady. But I was wrong. Maya tilted her head. Sometimes the thing we keep out is the thing holding the walls together. Grace gave a short laugh. Maybe so. Richard entered just then. Briefcase still in hand, tie loosened. He looked at Jerome reading on the rug with Lily, then at Maya holding Grace's chrysanthemums. Feels different in here, he said. Some doors, Maya replied. You don't knock on. You just walk through. That night, they gathered in the backyard. Lily insisted on planting the chrysanthemums herself. Her small hands patting the soil down while Jerome held the flashlight steady. Grace knelt beside her, guiding the roots into place. The air smelled faintly of earth and the first hints of fall. As the last plant was settled, Maya stood back, imagining the blooms lining the classroom path. She could already picture children brushing past them, carrying the scent into their lessons like a thread of memory. The next morning, Richard found her in the study, papers spread across the desk. Working? He asked. Drafting something, she said, sliding a folder toward him. The proposal for the regional program expansion. If the fellowship is going to reach more kids, we can't wait for permission. We need to move now. He leafed through the pages, eyebrows lifting. This is ambitious. Maya smiled faintly. Bridges don't build themselves. Her phone buzzed on the desk. An email subject line lit the screen. Invitation, Director of Programs, Institute of Arts and Languages. She read it twice, then handed it to Richard. They want a full proposal within 6 months. He looked at her. Pride breaking through the fatigue in his eyes. You're ready. Maya thought of Jerome on the rug, Grace in the garden, Lily's voice curling over new words. She thought of the koi pond the morning after the storm, how the water had stilled again. Yes, she said quietly. We're ready. In the weeks that followed, Jerome became a regular fixture in Lily's lessons, sometimes reading, sometimes just listening. Grace tended the chrysanthemums outside the classroom, pruning with care. As if each bloom was a promise. The house felt fuller, not louder, not busier, just fuller, like every room was finally being used for its purpose. One afternoon, Maya recorded a short message for the fellowship's community page, weaving in parent and teacher testimonies. As she edited, she kept one voice in, an older woman saying, "Sometimes the bridge you cross to learn a new language is the same one you cross to come home." Maya let the words linger at the end of the video, over a slow shot of Lily running down the classroom path, chrysanthemums brushing her fingertips. That night, as they prepared for bed, Richard asked, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't come back?" She considered it. "I think Lily would have stopped speaking more than just Mandarin." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "She would have stopped speaking the parts of herself she thought no one wanted to hear." Richard was quiet for a long moment, then said softly, "Thank you for teaching us how to listen." Outside, the chrysanthemums swayed in the night breeze, their scent drifting through the open window, a small, living proof that sometimes healing is planted long before you see it bloom. The spring sun slanted low over the courtyard, turning the new glass windows of the Min Alden Language Center into mirrors of gold. From the path, you could see the chrysanthemums in full bloom, rows of yellow and white, swaying as if whispering in the breeze. Maya stood on the steps, holding a folder that was heavier than paper should be. Inside were the results, the first complete cycle of the fellowship's work. Numbers, testimonies, charts, but also the quiet proof of children laughing in 2 languages without shame. Richard joined her, slipping a hand into his pocket. "You've been standing there for 15 minutes. You going in?" She smiled faintly. "Just savoring the view before we talk about it." They stepped inside, and the meeting room filled slowly with board members, community partners, and teachers from 3 districts. The air hummed with a low, anticipatory energy. Maya opened the folder and began. "When we started this journey, we weren't just trying to teach a language. We were trying to rebuild a bridge between worlds, a bridge some said couldn't hold." She glanced at Lily, sitting cross-legged in the front row beside Jerome. "Today, I want to show you what's already crossing it." Her voice was steady as she went through the metrics. Attendance rates up by 27% for bilingual students. Reading proficiency rising 2 grade levels on average. Emotional well-being scores, gathered anonymously, showing a 60% increase in students feeling belonging at school. But the numbers weren't the part that made the room lean in. It was when Maya played a short video montage. A teacher guiding a lesson on food vocabulary while a student taught the class a lullaby from their grandmother, a shy boy reading a paragraph in English, then in Spanish, and breaking into a grin when his classmates clapped. In the corner, Grace watched with her arms loosely folded, the hint of a smile breaking her usual composure. A board member asked, "And what about community engagement? Partnerships?" Maya clicked to the next slide. 3 school districts have signed memorandums of understanding to integrate the model. "We've secured funding from local businesses for the next 2 years, with a clear quarterly report, audited independently, to keep us transparent." Richard, from his seat in the back, caught her eye and nodded. The presentation ended with a single photograph projected onto the wall, the newly opened Min Alden Gallery. Glass cases with Min's calligraphy and teaching notes. A dual-language sign over the entrance. And beside the doorway, Lily holding a lantern she had decorated herself. "This isn't just a program," Maya said quietly. "It's a promise. That roots don't keep you stuck, they keep you standing. And wings don't take you away from home, they bring you back to it." The applause was long and unforced. Afterward, as people milled about, Lillian approached with a padded envelope. "I think it's time you had this." Maya frowned slightly. "What is it?" "A letter Min wrote 8 years ago. She never sent it." Maya opened it slowly. Min's handwriting flowed across the page, warm, deliberate. "Maya, I believe you and I could build something this city hasn't seen, a place where language is not just taught but felt. If you're willing. I want us to start it together. Her throat tightened. She wanted this before I even knew it was possible. Lillian's eyes were soft. Sometimes dreams wait for the right moment. And the right person. Outside, in the gallery courtyard, Grace was kneeling with a small group of students, helping them weave a chain of chrysanthemums into a circular wreath. She caught Maya watching and called out, "We're putting this by the entrance. Every time someone walks in, they'll pass through something alive." Maya smiled. "That's the best doorway we could ever build." Jerome came up beside her, his hands in his jacket pockets. "You've done it," he said simply. "We've done it," Maya corrected. In the late afternoon, they held an informal celebration. Children ran along the chrysanthemum path, laughter rising like music. Lanterns were strung from branch to branch, glowing softly as the sun dipped below the horizon. Lily moved among her classmates, sometimes in English, sometimes in Mandarin, her voice bright in either tongue. Maya stood by the koi pond for a moment, watching the fish glide beneath the surface. The water rippled in the lamplight, never perfectly still, but beautiful in its movement. Richard came to stand beside her. "So, what now?" She exhaled, the night air cool against her face. "Now we keep building. More bridges. More doors you don't have to knock on. And maybe, someday, they won't even notice the bridge under their feet. They'll just walk." He reached for her hand. "You know," he said quietly, "the proof isn't just in the numbers. It's in the way people stand a little taller when you speak. In the way Lily laughs now. That's your real metric." Maya looked around at the courtyard, the lights, the people. Then we're right on target. The music picked up again, and someone called for them to join the group photo. As they moved toward the center, Maya thought of Min's letter. Of every twist in the road that had led here. Roots. Wings. And a bridge of light between them. Snow was falling in thin, deliberate flakes, the kind that drifted rather than dropped. The Alden Estates garden glowed under a lattice of lanterns, each one lit by small hands earlier that afternoon. The koi pond was covered for winter now. But the chrysanthemums, carefully mulched and tended, still stood like sentinels, their colors muted but alive. In the center of the courtyard, a wooden phoenix, its feathers carved by Lily's class, perched above a circle of lanterns. The flames inside flickered gold and crimson, making the bird look almost ready to take flight. Lily stood at the microphone, her boots dusted with snow, scarf looped twice around her neck. "This is the story of a little girl who had two names," she began. "One from her father. One from her mother. And two languages, each one a key." She glanced toward Maya, who stood just behind the first row, and her voice lifted. But she didn't know how to use them, until someone built her a bridge. She sang then, a lullaby in Mandarin, its notes climbing like the lantern light itself. Halfway through, her voice folded seamlessly into the English translation, a mirror of the song's heartbeat. It was the same melody Min had written down years ago, the same one Maya had pieced together with care. You could feel the hush settle over the crowd, as if the snow itself had stopped falling to listen. When Lily finished, the silence held for a beat, and then applause rose like a tide. Maya stepped forward, her voice steady but warm. "We didn't build a monument," she said, meeting the eyes of the parents, teachers, and neighbors gathered. "We built bridges. One word at a time. One open door at a time. And sometimes," she looked at Lily, "those bridges lead us home." Richard moved up beside her, his hand brushing hers. "Thank you," he said, his voice low but carrying. "For bringing us home." A photographer called for the group to gather in the courtyard. Children clustered around the phoenix, lantern light washing over their faces. Grace stood off to one side. A gardening apron tied over her coat, wiping her hands after adjusting the last chrysanthemum wreath at the entrance. When Maya approached, Grace murmured, "The flowers, they're for her." So Lily remembers her mother by a scent that blooms, not by a memory that fades. Maya touched her arm. That's the most beautiful lesson she could ever learn. The photo was taken, flashes popping, laughter carrying, and then the music began, a gentle instrumental that wove into the winter night. People lingered, talking in clusters, trading stories about the program. About the year that had passed, about the changes they'd seen in their children. Jerome found Maya by the refreshment table. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking about that letter from Min. You didn't just finish what she started. You made it bigger than either of you imagined." Maya smiled, her breath clouding in the cold. Dreams, they don't shrink when they're shared. They grow. As the evening wound down, Maya took one last walk through the courtyard. Lanterns swayed overhead, the snow crunching softly beneath her boots. She passed the koi pond, the chrysanthemum path. The gallery windows where Min's handwriting was framed in light. The drone camera rose slowly from the far end of the garden, catching the whole estate in one sweeping shot, lanterns forming a glowing bridge from the main house to the gallery, the phoenix at its center. From above, it looked like the property itself was floating on a sea of light. Inside the gallery, a display case held Min's final letter, beside a small plaque that read, "May our roots give us wings." As Maya stood in the doorway, watching families head out into the snowy night, she felt it, this wasn't an ending. It was the moment the bridge touched solid ground on the other side. She whispered it to herself, so quiet it was almost lost under the wind, "The light's not ours to keep. It's ours to pass on." And in the distance, the phoenix's lantern wings trembled in the night air, ready to rise.